No one expects a civil rights battle to begin with burnt toast and lukewarm water. But when 42-year-old Maya Jefferson boarded the Meridian Express in a tailored blazer and was treated like an intruder and executive coach, she didn't just document the insult, she dismantled the system behind it. What followed wasn't just viral, it was transformative. One woman, one train ride, a national reckoning on what dignity should look like in public service. No one expected a luxury train ride to spark a national reckoning. The morning Maya Jefferson boarded the first-class coach of the Meridian Express, she wasn't looking for confrontation. She was headed from San Francisco to Denver, preparing to present her firm's proposal on equitable transit funding. Ironic in hindsight. At 42, Maya had built her reputation designing systems that served the many, not just the elite few. She believed in data, in policy, in quietly reforming institutions from the inside. But that morning, what awaited her wasn't policy review or PowerPoint decks. It was a reminder that no matter how polished her resume or how expensive her seat, some people still saw her presence as a provocation. She had chosen a quiet corner seat near the window. The cabin shimmered with soft leather, stainless steel, and walnut paneling. A modernist cocoon of privilege designed to suggest refinement. Maya's outfit was business casual. Olive slacks, a navy blouse, and a wool blazer. Her natural hair was pulled into a neat twist at the nape of her neck. She carried a messenger bag packed with charts, contracts, and a handwritten letter from her teenage daughter folded into her planner for good luck. It was her usual traveling uniform, functional, intentional, and to some, apparently threatening. As she settled in, a steward in a trim uniform paused beside her. He looked her over quickly, lips pursed. "This section is for executive-class passengers only," he said, gesturing stiffly to the front of the train. "Coach is 3 cars back." "I'm in the right place," Maya replied, calm but firm. She handed over her ticket, embossed with her platinum status and car number, 1A. The man studied it too long. Eventually, he handed it back with a tight nod, but not before muttering, "Strange, we don't usually see." He didn't finish the sentence, but Maya had heard versions of it before. Black women in first class, black women in authority. Black women who weren't there to serve or entertain. Too many people struggled to compute that reality. The interaction was small, barely a blip in the train's operations. But these were the kinds of moments that collected like sediment in the life of someone like Maya. The delayed recognition, the forced politeness, the assumption of error, and most of all, the quiet calculation. Who belongs here, and who doesn't? The real blow came an hour into the ride. As breakfast trays were distributed, frittatas, smoked salmon, freshly brewed coffee, Maya received a paper plate with a slice of plain toast and a lukewarm cup of water. No explanation, no apology. The steward from earlier returned with a thin smile and said, "We didn't know what you'd prefer, so we kept it simple. Some folks don't do well with the rich stuff." The comment hovered in the air like smoke. Other passengers looked away. Some glanced over with mild curiosity, others with embarrassment. No one said a word. It was meant to humiliate her. But Maya didn't react, not outwardly. Instead, she opened her planner, quietly unfolded her daughter's letter, and reread it. She reminded herself of what she had promised, that she would keep building a world where girls like her daughter didn't have to earn humanity seat by seat, meal by meal. And then she took a photo, the toast, the water, the steward's name tag, not for revenge, for record-keeping. She knew this wasn't just about her. She knew what it meant when an entire transit company could treat a paying black woman as a mistake to be corrected. She knew how incidents like this rippled through corporate culture, especially when no one was watching or when someone was watching but not recording. What the train crew didn't know was that Maya wasn't just any passenger. She was the lead equity consultant on a federal project evaluating regional rail compliance with civil rights laws, and her contract included a provision for anonymous quality assessments. That morning's experience? It wasn't just a degrading inconvenience. It was evidence, a system, exposed by the very behavior it failed to address. By the time the train reached its next stop, Maya had already sent the photo to her team. A quiet text, simple and deliberate. Monitor everything from car 1. They're showing us who they are. She folded the toast back into the paper napkin and watched it sit. Cold, untouched, a symbol now. Sometimes change begins with a protest. Sometimes with a policy brief. And sometimes all it takes is a slice of dry bread and a woman who knows how to weaponize it. It was still dark when Maya Jefferson stepped outside her brownstone in Oakland, the street lamps casting a soft amber glow on the quiet street. Her suitcase wheels clicked against the concrete as she rolled them down the driveway, the rhythm steady and practiced. At 42, she had been on more trains, planes, and buses than she could count. Yet, every departure still stirred something inside her. Anticipation. Vigilance. Resolve. Today, she was traveling as both passenger and auditor. What the Meridian rail executives didn't know was that Maya's consulting firm had been contracted by the Department of Transportation to conduct unannounced equity evaluations across luxury transit lines. What had started as a simple ride to a policy conference was now part of a larger, truth-seeking mission. A mission she hadn't initially planned to lead herself, but after the last 3 internal reports showed troubling patterns, she'd decided to see it with her own eyes. Her rideshare pulled up precisely at 6:05 a.m. A black sedan, hybrid engine humming almost silently. The driver greeted her with a warm, "Good morning," as he opened the door. Maya returned the gesture, then slipped into the back seat, checking her planner. 2 stops. Union Terminal for the train. Then Denver's Central Rail Hub by early afternoon. The car glided down Interstate 80 as the city slowly came to life. Outside, the bay shimmered with the early touch of sunrise. Inside, Maya reviewed the briefing on her tablet. Notes on staff rotations, anonymized complaints from passengers of color, and a flagged incident involving a black teenager in business class who had been asked 3 times for his ticket on the same ride. It had been dismissed as a procedural error. Maya wasn't so sure. At 6:47 a.m., they pulled up to Union Terminal, a sleek, glass-paneled structure buzzing with efficiency. Digital signs flashed in clean fonts above self-service kiosks. Security teams moved briskly. Concierge robots rolled through the lobby, offering QR codes for express boarding. The terminal was a technological marvel, but even polished steel couldn't disguise the deeply human behaviors playing out inside. Maya entered through the main gate and approached the check-in desk reserved for executive-class passengers. She stood in line behind an older white couple, he in a tailored trench coat, she in a silk scarf and heels that clicked like punctuation marks across the marble floor. The attendant greeted them warmly, scanned their QR codes, and directed them toward the private boarding lounge. When it was Maya's turn, the woman at the desk didn't smile. She looked down at Maya's ticket, then up at Maya's face, then back at the ticket. "I'm sorry, this line is for executive passengers only," the woman said flatly. "I know," Maya replied, tapping the platinum seal on the corner of her digital pass. "Jefferson, seat 1A. The attendant blinked, then forced a smile. "Of course," she murmured, now scanning the pass with unnecessary slowness. "You just caught me off guard, not a common last name." Maya didn't respond. She'd learned that some comments didn't deserve energy. The attendant waved her through but did not offer the welcome packet or boarding guide she'd seen handed to the couple before her. Maya noted the omission but kept moving. As she walked past, she overheard the woman whisper to her colleague, "I thought she was media or something." Bias doesn't always scream. Sometimes it mutters. Inside the executive lounge, the contrast was sharp. Leather chairs formed a quiet arc around tall windows overlooking the tracks. A barista in a minimalist uniform served cappuccinos. A soft jazz playlist played over hidden speakers. Maya found a corner seat, opened her laptop, and began reviewing her final presentation slides for the Denver conference. As she worked, other passengers trickled in, mostly white, mostly men in suits, a few women with designer luggage and crisp haircuts. Each one received a warm greeting from the concierge, along with a leather-bound menu of pre-boarding breakfast options. Maya was approached only once, and not by a staff member. A man in his late 50s paused beside her, eyeing her screen. "You with operations?" he asked casually. "Number independent consultant," she replied. "Ah, data analyst?" he guessed, as if defaulting to the only job he could associate with her presence. Maya smiled politely. "Close." He nodded, clearly uninterested now that she wasn't part of the help desk. "Well, enjoy the ride," he added, then moved on. It was subtle, but telling. Maya had worked on enough transportation policy to know that who gets seen, and how, is often decided in the seconds before a greeting is offered. At 7:40 a.m., the final boarding announcement echoed through the lounge. Passengers began to rise, gathering their briefcases and designer coats. Maya moved with them, blending in and standing apart at the same time. As she approached the private boarding gate, she noticed something odd. The security scanner beeped when she scanned her pass. "Please step aside, ma'am," said the uniformed agent. "Secondary verification." Maya paused. "Is there a problem?" "Random flag," he replied. She stepped aside, lips pressed together, and waited. Behind her, a young white man scanned his ticket and walked through without interruption. After 2 minutes, the agent gave her a tight nod. "You're clear." No apology, no explanation. Maya boarded. Inside the train's executive coach, the aesthetic was as luxurious as advertised. Mahogany finishes, floor lighting, and personal suites outfitted with climate controls and virtual assistants. But for Maya, the morning's cumulative slights sat heavier than her briefcase. As she settled into seat 1A, she noted the digital wall display above her head. "Welcome, Maya Jefferson." It didn't feel welcoming. The steward from earlier, the same one who had questioned her presence in the cabin, appeared again, this time with a clipboard. "Ms. Jefferson?" he asked. "Yes?" "You didn't request a dietary accommodation?" "No," Maya replied, puzzled. He frowned. "The system shows restricted meal service, just water and toast. I didn't set that." He nodded curtly, then walked away without clarification. Maya exhaled slowly. She didn't need the steward's behavior or the data glitch explained to her. She'd spent her entire career decoding systems, especially the ones that malfunctioned in eerily consistent ways. She pulled out her phone and opened the anonymous data capture app her firm had designed for field audits. She entered a brief tag. Passenger. Executive class. Pattern of exclusion. Flag meal discrepancy. Pre-boarding microaggressions logged. Then she took a photo of the untouched welcome tray, napkin, cup of lukewarm water, and a single slice of unbuttered toast. Not for revenge, for documentation. The truth had to be seen to be changed. Out the window, the sun broke fully over the city, flooding the tracks with golden light. The Meridian Express began to pull away. Maya leaned back, her hands resting on her planner. Her daughter's letter sat folded inside, its edges soft from frequent rereading. Change didn't begin in policy rooms or press releases. It began here, in the quiet, coded humiliations that added up to exclusion. It began when someone chose to record what others ignored. And it began, today, with her. The hum of the Meridian Express shifted subtly as the train accelerated out of the city. Beneath the polished silence of the executive coach, there was a low vibration. Steady, almost musical. Maya Jefferson sat upright in her seat, eyes fixed on the tray in front of her. A slice of plain white toast. A plastic cup of room-temperature water. Nothing else. She hadn't touched it. Across the aisle, a white woman with short blonde hair leaned back in a leather recliner, sipping cappuccino and delicately picking at a breakfast plate of eggs, Benedict, roasted potatoes, and fresh berries. A linen napkin draped across her lap. A silver fork clinked softly against china. Maya's tray, by contrast, looked like a mistake, but it wasn't. She pressed the button for service. Several minutes passed. No one came. She pressed again. Still nothing. From the corner of her eye, Maya caught the steward, middle-aged, trim, same man who had checked her ticket earlier. Breeze passed her row twice without so much as a glance. He moved with purpose when addressing other passengers, bending at the waist, offering fresh juice, making recommendations from the brunch menu. But every time he neared Maya's seat, something about his posture shifted. A subtle rigidity. As though her presence interfered with his flow. The behavior was consistent, deliberate, familiar. Maya opened her tablet and tapped into her firm's encrypted logbook. She entered a timestamp and a short field note. Repeated service denial. Visual confirmation of discriminatory exclusion. Behavior pattern mirrors previous flagged complaints. She saved it, then opened her camera. She didn't raise the device to eye level, just angled it slightly, captured the toast, the water, the steward's nameplate visible on his passing shoulder. H. Templeton. Maya's stomach churned, not from hunger, but from recognition. She'd studied enough case reports to know what this was. An orchestrated form of exclusion masked as policy error. Her presence disrupted the visual assumptions the executive coach had been designed to support. An elite space intended for those with status and, implicitly, whiteness. Across the aisle, the blonde passenger, late 30s, stylish denim jacket, wireless earbuds, was watching her now. Quietly. Eyes narrowed. Maya met her gaze. "I don't think they brought your meal," the woman said, her tone uncertain but kind. "They brought this," Maya replied. The woman glanced at the tray, then looked stunned. "You ordered that? I didn't order anything yet." The woman sat up straighter. "I'll say something," she offered. Maya shook her head gently. "Not yet." Just then, the steward returned. This time with 2 plates in hand and a folded white towel over one arm. He placed a steaming dish in front of the man 2 seats behind Maya. Then he paused. Without turning to Maya, he muttered, "Restricted dietary preferences must be requested at booking." Then walked off. The woman across the aisle scoffed audibly. "Did you hear that?" "I did. That's not okay." Maya's reply was measured. "It's not new either." The woman hesitated, then extended her hand across the aisle. "I'm Rachel." "Maya?" Rachel's brows drew together. "I travel this line twice a month. I've never seen someone treated like this." Maya gave her a knowing look. "Then, we're both seeing something new." Over the next 20 minutes, the pattern didn't just repeat, it escalated. As the crew continued their rounds, Maya was skipped again. No beverage offer, no towel, no menu, no acknowledgement. Passengers nearby grew increasingly aware of the exclusion. Some glanced her way, clearly unsettled. A few avoided eye contact altogether, suddenly interested in their phones or windows. Maya noticed it all, the discomfort, the silent calculation of whether this was their business. Most settled on number. The bystander effect in motion. The quiet complicity of good people choosing safety over solidarity. Until one man didn't. A silver-haired gentleman in a three-piece suit shifted in his seat across the aisle. "Excuse me," he called to the steward. "I believe this passenger has been overlooked." Templeton turned sharply. "I'm following the manifest," he replied. "The manifest doesn't explain toast and water in executive class," the man replied. Templeton didn't answer. He simply walked away. Maya exhaled slowly. The man leaned across the aisle. "I've seen this before," he said, voice low. "Different uniform, same message." Maya nodded. She appreciated the moment, but she didn't need saving. What she needed was the truth to surface, organically, in full view. She glanced at her tablet. An alert from her office had just arrived. Live data capture initiated. Monitoring train cabin feeds. Continue passive logging. Her firm had designed the software to run in tandem with federal rail transparency initiatives. Programs pushed by the Department of Transportation that required infrastructure projects receiving public funding to comply with non-discrimination statutes. What many transit workers didn't know was that these systems could be activated mid-ride, and that Maya had access. She tapped open a side window, internal cabin surveillance. A silent stream of video populated the screen. 3 camera angles, clear audio. She tapped a button. Record. Then she pressed the service button one last time. This time, Templeton appeared. He didn't bother to hide his irritation. "You need something else? I'd like to see the menu." He looked baffled. "You haven't eaten." "I haven't received a menu." He stared, then shook his head as if gaslighting would be enough to reverse recorded history. "I'll check with the kitchen," he muttered. He walked away again. Rachel leaned across the aisle. "I've got an idea." She pulled out her phone, pretending to scroll, and hit record. "If you want a second angle," she said quietly, "I've got you covered." Maya nodded. "Thank you." 15 minutes later, Templeton returned. This time with a smug smile and a plate in hand. No apology, no explanation, just action. He set the plate down with performative professionalism. On it, a bruised apple, dry crackers, and a small bowl of plain oatmeal. No garnishes, no sugar, no spoon. "This is our alternate," he said stiffly. Rachel looked horrified. "You're kidding." Templeton ignored her. Maya didn't react. Instead, she picked up her phone and captured the tray. Then the steward's name tag again. Then the clock display on the wall. Everything time-stamped. Everything quiet. A few passengers began whispering now. The man in the three-piece suit leaned over again. "Would you like to share my tray?" he asked. "I'm serious." "I appreciate the offer," Maya replied, "but I'm doing just fine." Inside, she felt the tremor of something rising. Not anger, not yet, conviction, the kind that followed facts. Because this wasn't just about one bad steward or one skipped meal. This was about how the Meridian Express, and others like it, built luxury experiences by quietly gatekeeping who felt welcome inside them. It was in the language of restricted services. It was in the silence of the manager who hadn't checked in. It was in the design of the cabin, the crew training, the guest manifests. It was systemic. And it was time-stamped now. Her phone vibrated. A message from her firm. Multiple exclusionary behaviors confirmed. Surveillance synced. Proceed to next phase at your discretion. She turned off the recording and placed the phone down, then turned to Rachel. "I need a favor," anything. When the supervisor comes to smooth this over, don't let them erase it. Let them show their work." Rachel gave a half smile. "Copy that." 10 minutes later, the head purser arrived, an older man in a navy vest, nameplate reading G. Morales. He knelt beside Maya's seat with the air of someone trying to extinguish a smoke. "Ms. Jefferson," he began, "I understand there may have been a misunderstanding with your meal." "There was no misunderstanding," Maya replied evenly. "There was a pattern." He blinked. "If there was anything inappropriate, there was a camera," she interrupted. "Two, actually." She turned her tablet slightly, showing him the paused footage. "You're welcome to explain it, but you won't be explaining it to just me." Morales paled. Maya leaned in slightly. "I work with the Department of Transportation on equity compliance. This train is under contract review." A silence settled over the aisle. Rachel exhaled slowly. Morales stood abruptly. "I'll bring you something more appropriate right away." "There's no need," Maya said. "You've already shown me everything I needed to see." The purser backed away. Rachel looked stunned. "You really work for the government?" "I work for accountability," Maya replied, "and this is what it looks like." Outside the window, the California countryside blurred past. Inside the cabin, something had shifted. The silence was heavier now, tense, reflective. Passengers sat straighter. The steward hadn't returned. Morales stayed in the galley, but their absence spoke volumes. Maya reopened her tablet and began typing. Summary: repeated passive and active service denials, deliberate exclusion, retaliatory tone from staff. Verified by multiple video streams and eyewitness accounts. Staff attempted corrective action after identity disclosure. Audit complete. She signed the log with her initials. MJ. The train moved faster now. She leaned back in her seat and unfolded her daughter's letter again. A line stood out this time, one she had read a dozen times but never quite felt this way. "You always told me to do what's right, even if it's uncomfortable." Maya smiled. Sometimes doing what's right meant sitting through the discomfort. Sometimes it meant ordering toast. And sometimes it meant making sure no one else ever had to. The rhythmic hum of the Meridian Express provided a steady backdrop as Maya Jefferson sat in the executive coach, her mind racing faster than the train itself. The earlier incidents of discrimination were not isolated. They were symptomatic of a deeper, systemic issue. Maya knew that addressing this required more than a personal confrontation. It demanded a strategic, calculated approach. She reached into her bag and retrieved a slim, black notebook. Flipping it open, she reviewed the notes she had jotted down. Timestamps, descriptions of interactions, and observations of staff behavior. Each entry was a piece of a puzzle she intended to assemble into a compelling narrative. Maya's experience as a transportation equity consultant had taught her the power of data. She activated her tablet and accessed the train's public Wi-Fi, navigating to the Department of Transportation's complaint portal. The interface was user-friendly, designed to encourage passengers to report incidents of discrimination or misconduct. Maya began drafting her complaint, meticulously detailing each event with precision. As she typed, she recalled the recent updates to the Department of Transportation's Equity Action Plan. The plan emphasized proactive measures to address systemic inequities in transportation services, including mandatory bias training for staff and the implementation of anonymous reporting systems. Maya's complaint would not only highlight her personal experience, but also underscore the need for these reforms to be enforced rigorously. Federal Register. Meanwhile, Rachel, the passenger seated across the aisle, had taken notice of Maya's focused demeanor. She leaned over and whispered, "Is there anything I can do to help?" Maya looked up, appreciating the offer. Actually, yes. If you're comfortable, could you provide a witness statement? Your perspective as an observer would add weight to the complaint. Absolutely, Rachel replied, already opening her own tablet to begin writing. With the complaint submitted and Rachel's statement attached, Maya turned her attention to social media. She crafted a concise post detailing her experience, careful to maintain a tone of professionalism and composure. She included a photo of the meager meal she had been served in the steward's nameplate, ensuring that her account was both personal and verifiable. Within minutes, the post began gaining traction. Comments poured in, many expressing outrage and solidarity. The hashtag numbered train equity now started trending, amplifying the conversation beyond the confines of the train. Back in the executive coach, the atmosphere had shifted. Passengers who had previously remained silent now exchanged glances, their discomfort palpable. The steward, Mr. Templeton, returned, his demeanor noticeably altered. "Miss Jefferson," he began, his voice strained, "I apologize for the earlier oversight. Please allow me to offer you a proper meal." Maya met his gaze, her expression unwavering. "Thank you, but I've already documented the incident and submitted a formal complaint. The issue extends beyond a single meal." Templeton nodded, his face flushed. "Understood." As he retreated, the train's intercom crackled to life. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your conductor speaking. We are aware of a situation that has arisen in the executive coach. Please be assured that we are addressing the matter in accordance with company policy and federal regulations." Maya's phone buzzed with a notification. A prominent news outlet had picked up her social media post, and the story was rapidly spreading. The combination of first-hand accounts, visual evidence, and the broader implications for transportation equity made it a compelling narrative. The viral nature of the incident mirrored previous cases where social media had served as a catalyst for accountability. Recent data from the Department of Transportation indicated an increase in discrimination complaints, highlighting the ongoing challenges faced by marginalized communities in transportation settings. Maya's actions had not only shed light on her personal experience, but also reignited a national conversation about systemic bias in public services. Her strategic use of documentation, formal channels, and social media exemplified how individuals could leverage available tools to challenge and change entrenched systems. As the train continued its journey, Maya reflected on the events that had unfolded. She knew that the road to equity was long and fraught with obstacles, but moments like this reaffirmed the importance of vigilance, resilience, and collective action. The skyline of Denver came into view through the train window, distant towers rising from the flat plains like steel declarations. Maya Jefferson sat still, composed, her hands resting lightly on the closed tablet in her lap. The tablet, that now contained time-stamped surveillance footage, crew audio recordings, and documented statements from multiple passengers. The Meridian Express slowed as it approached Central Terminal. The cabin lights shifted to a cooler tone, and the in-train voice assistant began its final announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now arriving at Denver Central. Please gather all belongings. Executive assistance is available upon request." Passengers stirred. Luggage was unhooked, coats retrieved. Across the aisle, Rachel met Maya's gaze. "You ready?" she asked. Maya nodded once. The silence between them was understanding. What had happened on this train would not end here, it would begin here. As the train hissed to a stop, the door to the front galley opened. A man stepped inside, distinct in a dark suit with a Meridian rail lapel pin. Broad-shouldered, mid-50s, perfectly groomed. His name tag read G. Walker, Regional Director. He scanned the cabin. His eyes landed on Maya and held there. "Ms. Jefferson," he said evenly, stepping forward, "I'm Gerald Walker, and I'd like a moment of your time if I may." Maya stood. "You can have it, but we're not talking in the aisle." He nodded, then gestured toward the conference lounge car, a quiet glass room usually reserved for private clients or board meetings. A security officer trailed discreetly behind him. Maya noticed, but said nothing. Rachel stood as well. "She's coming," Maya said. Walker hesitated, then opened the lounge door and stepped aside. The room was minimalist, upscale. Frosted glass, leather chairs, and a live digital map of the train's route still glowing across the wall. A table in the center held bottled water and a chrome tray of untouched snacks. Maya placed her tablet on the table. Then she sat. Rachel joined her. Walker remained standing. "I've been briefed on the issue," he began, folding his hands in front of him. "And let me say, this does not reflect the values of Meridian Rail. We take inclusivity very seriously." Maya looked at him directly. "Then explain why a staff member with 3 prior complaints still has access to first-class passengers." Walker's expression didn't change, but his posture did, subtle, defensive. "We address each complaint individually. In some cases, the evidence is inconclusive." Maya tapped her tablet once. The screen lit up, revealing a grid of video clips. One by one, she played them. Clip 1, the steward, Templeton, bypassing Maya's row. Clip 2, the steward handing her a meal of dry toast and warm water. Clip 3, Rachel whispering, "They served me eggs, Benedict." Clip 4, the steward laughing in the galley after Maya had been seated. Walker's face stiffened. "These are all from today?" he asked. Maya nodded. "Your system, your cameras, your staff." Rachel leaned in. "We both know this isn't new." "Are you recording this conversation?" Walker asked. "No," Maya replied, "but I don't need to. This is the part where you start thinking about how to fix what's broken." Walker slowly lowered himself into the chair across from her. "What is it you want, Ms. Jefferson?" Maya had anticipated that question. "I want accountability," she said. "Real, documented, immediate. Which means public acknowledgement, not just a statement, an admission of systemic bias and a commitment to reform. Immediate suspension of all crew members involved, pending investigation, and a meeting, today, with your corporate compliance lead and diversity officer." Walker hesitated. "There are protocols." "No," Maya interrupted. "There are excuses. I'm giving you a chance to choose something better." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Outside the glass room, the crowd of disembarking passengers had slowed. Some were watching, whispering. Phones were already out. Word had spread. The woman who had been denied breakfast. The woman who wasn't supposed to be in executive class. Maya's phone buzzed, a message from her legal team. "National Rail Council and DOT now monitoring thread. Press requests incoming. Viral reach exceeds 1.3 million in last 3 hours." Another notification. "Train equity now trending at number 2. Passenger served toast while others got steak, gaining national traction." Maya turned the screen toward Walker. "This isn't just bad optics. This is a cultural audit you failed, and this time I'm holding the receipt." He took a breath, exhaled slowly. "You'll have what you asked for. All of it." Rachel's brow lifted in surprise. Maya nodded once. "I'll expect an update within the hour." Walker stood. "And Ms. Jefferson?" She looked up. "Off the record, I'm sorry this happened." Maya's voice was calm but firm. "Then make sure it doesn't happen again, to anyone." Walker left. The security guard followed. Rachel let out a slow breath. That was surgical. Maya smiled slightly. No scalpel, just sunlight. They exited the lounge together. Outside, the train platform was alive with reporters, passengers, and station staff. Cameras flashed. A reporter approached, recorder outstretched. "Ms. Jefferson, can you comment on the incident aboard the Meridian Express?" Maya stopped. "I can say this. What happened to me is not unique, it's just visible. What matters now is not how one woman was treated. What matters is whether Meridian Rail, and every company like it, is willing to treat this as a symptom of something bigger. I didn't come here to expose a steward. I came to expose a system." The reporter nodded, scribbling fast. "And the system is on notice." Maya turned and walked toward the exit. Rachel beside her. The platform buzzed behind them, but Maya didn't look back. Her next meeting would take place in a conference room on the top floor of a downtown high-rise. Executives, compliance officers, legal counsel. She would sit at the head of the table, not as a guest, but as a stakeholder in how accountability would be structured moving forward. And when the cameras moved on, when the trending hashtags cooled, she'd still be there, making sure change stuck. Not just for her. For every writer still served toast while others got wine. The press conference took place the following morning inside the glass atrium of Denver's Union Transit Hall, a soaring civic space typically reserved for announcements about infrastructure expansions and commuter upgrades. Today, however, it had a different tone, part reckoning, part reimagination. Maya Jefferson stood behind a podium branded with the Meridian Rail logo. A row of microphones extended toward her like metal fingers. Behind her stood company executives, Department of Transportation representatives, and members of the newly formed Passenger Equity Council. She adjusted the microphone, then she began. "Yesterday, I boarded a train expecting professional service. What I received instead was systemic exclusion. I was denied basic hospitality, denied the respect granted to others, and dismissed by those entrusted with care." Maya's voice was steady, low, and resonant. "What happened to me was not a glitch in the system. It was the system, working exactly as it was designed. But that design is over." Flashes erupted across the room. Reporters leaned forward. Every major network had sent a crew. Across the web, the live stream spiked. Comments flying in faster than they could be read. The viral hashtag number sign, Train Equity Now, was holding strong at number 1. Maya continued. "Meridian Rail has formally acknowledged the incident as an act of discrimination. The crew involved has been placed under full federal review. But more importantly, the company has agreed to implement immediate reforms, not as damage control, as transformation." She stepped aside and gestured to Gerald Walker, the regional director who had confronted her aboard the train. He stepped to the mic with a carefully neutral expression. "Effective immediately," he announced, "Meridian Rail will launch the Passenger Dignity Initiative, an internal oversight division with civilian review. All first-class and executive-level service crews will be retrained under a revised inclusivity framework. Every complaint will be reviewed by both our legal and ethical oversight branches, and we will publish public transparency reports every 60 days. Reporters scribbled. Maya watched silently, her arms folded. Walker wasn't finished. "We are also partnering with transportation equity experts, including Ms. Jefferson, to create a real-time anonymous feedback system. Passengers will be able to report mistreatment mid-journey, directly to a compliance team trained to intervene." He paused, then added, "And we are expanding this model across our freight and regional lines, because equity isn't just for flagship routes." Another round of camera flashes. Maya stepped forward again. What you're seeing here today isn't just about one company. It's a signal to an industry that has long resisted accountability. This is a line in the sand. A proof point. She paused, letting the silence land. And this is just the start. A hand shot up in the press gallery. Janelle Franklin, Transit Today, Ms. Jefferson, do you believe this kind of reform is possible without public pressure? Maya nodded slowly. Public pressure is not the problem. It's the proof. When systems fail, the people will rise. What matters is whether institutions choose to listen. A second reporter followed up. Is this enough? Does a policy shift undo what happened? Maya took a beat before answering. Accountability is not about erasure. It's about acknowledgement. No, this doesn't erase the harm, but it begins the repair. And for those who think it's too much, ask yourself why equity feels excessive only when it's demanded by those who've gone too long without it. The crowd stirred with a mix of discomfort and awe. Maya continued. We've seen these patterns across all forms of transport: planes, buses, rail. Each time, the story is the same. A black passenger is humiliated. A video goes viral. A corporation scrambles. A nod to the data. Complaints logged with the DOT's Office of Civil Rights have steadily increased over the past year, with most involving service disparities and racial bias. The Federal Aviation Administration's updated guidelines on discrimination have prompted similar audits in air travel. Now, the rail industry was being pulled into that spotlight. And every time, Maya said, we hear the same apology. But change isn't measured in sound bites, it's measured in systems. She looked directly at the row of executives behind her. Today, you've committed to change. I will be here every 60 days, checking your metrics. The crowd murmured. The moment had shifted from crisis response to movement making. Walker leaned toward the mic again. One more announcement. We're also introducing a new training and outreach position to hold our leadership accountable. Maya Jefferson will assume the role of Executive Advisor for Passenger Experience Reform, effective next quarter. There was no applause, just a silence filled with realization. A reporter near the front broke it. What made you accept the position, Ms. Jefferson? Maya met his gaze. Because change doesn't happen from the outside. It happens when someone walks through the front door, pulls back the curtain, and makes the system see itself. As she stepped down from the podium, the cameras followed. Rachel greeted her off stage with a proud nod. You really did it? No, Maya said. We just got started. Outside, Denver's light rail hummed across the street. Across the city and across the internet, travelers from all walks of life began sharing their own experiences under the hashtag #TrainEquityNow. Stories of being ignored, overlooked, dismissed. But this time, they weren't alone, and this time, there was a record. 6 months later, the platform at Union Terminal looked different. The signs were more than physical, though those had changed too. New placards in every car declared passengers' rights in plain language. Touchscreen kiosks allowed for immediate service feedback. Conductors wore redesigned uniforms stitched with a small patch. Equity first. Inside executive coach, Maya Jefferson sat in a window seat, dressed not in protest but in purpose. The morning sun warmed her cheek as the train pulled away from Denver, heading east toward Chicago. She was en route to brief federal regulators on the progress of the Passenger Dignity Initiative, now adopted by 3 major rail carriers and referenced in draft legislation. She sipped her coffee, not from a paper cup, but a ceramic mug delivered with care. No one skipped her row. No one questioned her presence. Not anymore. Across from her sat a younger black woman in her 20s, headphones around her neck, laptop open. She looked up suddenly, recognition dawning. "Wait, you're Maya Jefferson, right?" Maya smiled. "Depends who's asking." "I watched the press conference. You're the reason my grandmother got an apology from Transmetro last month." Maya's smile widened, but her voice stayed grounded. "I'm one reason. People like your grandmother, they're the reason I keep going." The woman nodded, then turned her laptop so Maya could see. On the screen was a draft thesis titled "Public Transit and the Architecture of Dignity." "You mind if I quote you?" "Quote me all you want," Maya said. "Just tell the truth." The ride continued in silence, broken only by the steady rhythm of steel wheels on track. Outside, the landscape rolled by, prairies, towns, and cities slowly waking to a new standard. Back in Washington, the Department of Transportation had just submitted its latest findings. Reports of passenger discrimination on long-distance rail had dropped by 34% in the last quarter. A direct correlation was drawn to real-time feedback tools, crew accountability, and mandatory retraining programs. But numbers were only part of the story. What Maya had triggered on that one, quiet train ride, was now unfolding nationally. Not because she shouted, but because she documented. Because she didn't let a slice of dry toast be dismissed as trivial. In a country still learning how to see bias in plain view, Maya Jefferson had made it undeniable. One trip, one voice, one refusal to be silent. And the tracks ahead were just beginning.